Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So far we discussed about the module 1, module 4 and module 5, and in module 2 we discussed about the brain as CPU. So hopefully you understand all the topics. If any doubts are there, please get back to me. So today we are going to start subtopics under brain as CPU. There are 7 subtopics are there. Initially we are going to look what exactly the architecture of brain, and we are going to compare with the CPU, and then we are going to speak about PNS, CNS, and how exactly the architecture, how exactly the anatomy of CNS and PNS is, and then we will discuss about the several other topics like EAG, okay, related to the brain. Whatever the things are there, we are going to discuss, like engineering solution to the Parkinson's disease. Okay, these are the few topics that we are going to discuss. Even for robotics, like for robotic arm, from that brain sends signal, whereas we can have the arm, those who are not having the arm, okay, so we can fix the robotic arm, and where we can have an interface where brain signals can be received by these particular robotic arms, and then they will function. So that usually when the person loses his leg or hand, during those kind of applications we can use that particular applications. Okay, so these are the few topics we are going to discuss under brain as CPU according to your syllabus. Okay, so let's begin. Architecture. So brain architecture and CPU architecture we are going to discuss and compare. What do you mean by architecture? So architecture means how exactly the components are arranged in the CPU. If you are talking about the CPU or any material which is prepared by the human being, it can be the chips or it can be the connecting nodes, that networking, all other stuffs we can say. But when it comes to the natural architecture, it is fixed. It is designed by the nature. Okay. So most of those who believe in God, they say that it is done by the God, and those who doesn't believe in God, it is a result of evolution. So whatever it may be, but as of the science concerned, the science says the minimum amount of gene that should be required to exist something so that it can evolve. So if we want to go for evolution, we need a particular small DNA. Now that DNA, from where it has come up, even science doesn't have answer yet. So it has to believe that it is put that particular small amount of the cell, or in the whatever the information, the genetic information or the DNA, that has been put by someone. So that's what most of us we call it, may be from the God. Okay, so let's start how the architecture starts. I mean, how exactly the architecture of brain and CPU are similar. They are similar in comparison, that we are going to discuss. Okay, ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ 1, ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ 4, ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ 5 ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಪ್ರಿವಿಯಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬ್ರೈನ್ CPU ಆಗಿ ಹೇಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಸುಪೀರಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ CPU ಇಂದ ಅದನ್ನು ಸಹ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಆರ್ಕಿಟೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಸಬ್ ಟಾಪಿಕನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ಕಿಟೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಅದು ಒಳಗಡೆ ಕಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅರೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಹಾಗೆ ನಾವು ಬ್ರೈನನ್ನು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ಮತ್ತು CPU ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಈ ಟಾಪಿಕಲ್ಲಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 6-7 ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಇವೆ, ಸಬ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ಸ್. ಆರ್ಕಿಟೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, PNS CNS ಕಂಪ್ಯಾರಿಸನ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ರೋಬೋಟಿಕ್ ಆರ್ಮ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಅಂದರೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಬ್ರೈನಿಂದ ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಕೈ ಏನಾದರೂ ಕಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಥವಾ ಏನಾದರೂ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ರೋಬೋಟಿಕ್ ಆರ್ಮ್ನ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಬ್ರೈನಿಂದ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ಸನ್ನು ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆಗ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ ಥರ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟರ್ಫೇಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಬ್ರೈನಿಂದ ಬಂದ ರಿಸೀವರ್ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಮತ್ತು ಅದು ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಅದೇ ಥರ EEGಯನ್ನು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಇದೇ ಸಬ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಪಾರ್ಕಿನ್ಸನ್ ಡಿಸೀಸ್, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಡಿಸೀಸ್, ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಡಿಸಾರ್ಡರ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಡಿಸೀಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಅದು ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಆ ಡಿಸೀಸನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಹೋಗಲಾಡಿಸ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಅದನ್ನು ಓವರ್ಕಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಆಸ್ CPU ಅಂತಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಿಲೆಬಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. So let's begin the architecture of brain and CPU. Now the architecture of the human brain as CPU system can be compared to that of the parallel distributed processing system. Okay, so how we can compare? We are having the brain, we are having the CPU. We can compare the brain as a CPU as a parallel distributed processing system, because CPU is nothing but what? It is a processing system, whereas brain is processing system. In the previous topic, we discussed about how exactly the CPU and brain works. So what does both brain and CPU takes the input signal and then process the signal. Okay, where major part of the CPU and the brain is to process the signal, and then it will store the information, and then not only storing as a memory, but it also will give you the output. So that is called as architecture, and those are the major functions of the CPU and as well as brain. Now when it comes to the parallel distributed processing system, that means both are having the processing system as unique. Okay, but they are having the function is same here. So as opposed to the one-man architecture of the traditional computer. So we have a computer, for example here we are considering the Van Neumann architecture of traditional computers, and then we are comparing with the brain. So in human brain, what is this thing? So information is processed, right? In our brain, what is happening? Information has been processed in distributed manner. How it is distributed manner? Because in the human brain we are having multiple regions. Okay, those multiple regions will do the multitasking. So each with specialized functions. Every region has got their specialized function. Now I am talking, so a particular neurons are responsible for my talking by looking at the particular slides, or it may be the information what my brain already has stored. Okay, so I am using my the memory, I am using my knowledge, I am using the slides also, and I am explaining it to you. So here brain is doing multitasking. Brain is what is it doing? It is taking the whatever the stored information in my memory, and it is my eyes are looking at the particular points. Okay, if I miss out any points, I can take out those points, and then I can recall to brain, add these points, and so eyes are doing functioning, and also the brain is sending the signals to my mouth and as well as my hands, so that I can explain in a possible best manner. Okay, with the signs or something like that. So it is nothing but, so now the particular in brain what is happening? Information is processed in distributed manner. Now can you see these all are distributed manner across multiple regions. So every region has got every different specialized functions. Understanding? That's why I am able to do the multitasking when I am explaining. I am taking very simple example which is in front of you now. So rather than being processed sequentially in a single centralized location. So in brain what happens? It is not centralized. It is not. It's not like first I am looking at, then I am processing in my brain, then I am storing the information, then I am explaining it to you, then I am signing. No, everything is happening parallelly. That is because of the processing is in a distributed manner across the multiple regions, different regions. So every region has got its particular function. That's why it is decentralized. Everything is happening in a fraction of a second. There is no difference in between these particular things. Everything is matching. What I am talking is matching to what I am thinking, and what I am thinking is matching to the whatever I am giving the signs through my hands. So these are all called as what? So information is processed in a distributed manner across the multiple regions. Okay, each region has got their specialized functions, whereas rather than but it is not a single centralized location where it will be there in the CPU. Okay, so here you can see this is a red dot. What you can see, the first one is a CPU. So this CPU has got whatever the red boxes you are seeing. No? So those boxes you can just imagine it as a memory cell of the CPU. Okay, so you are getting computing cells. So computing cells are nothing but the cells which are responsible for the processing. It may be the transistor, it may be the IC chips, all those things. Okay, so there will be a bus. That means communication system will be there in between the computing system and memory cells. So the CPU will, what happens? It will compute, and then there will be a connection, in two-way connection at the memory. So whatever the processed, it will receive, the CPU will receive the input, it will process the input, and then it will store the input. Okay, so as a memory. So this is called as a man-human computing system. So that is how the man-human computing system looks like. This is an architecture of computing system or CPU, who was proposed by whom? Van Neumann. That's why it is called as man-human computing system. Whereas now you can see these are arranged specifically, but when it comes to the brain computing system, so you can see it is alternative networks. There are multiple networks are there, multiple computing these things are there. Here computing cells will be what? See the red one? Neurons. Neurons will act as what? Computing cells. Whereas memory cells will act as synapses, because when there is a synapses linkage, then only we can able to get the output done. Understanding? Or the communication will happen. Understanding? So here this is how the brain and the computing system architecture looks like. This is very important. The diagram has to be written in your particular exams. Okay, because the diagrams here in the particular architecture, the diagram is the main thing. Okay, so you can expect 1 or 2 marks for just diagrams. Okay, so this is a comparison between the brain as computing system with respect to the conventional Van Neumann computing system. I hope you understood. So just like how the computer CPU has an arithmetic logic unit that is called, based on the algebra, Boolean algebra it works, that is called ALU. So CPU has got ALU, that is arithmetic logic unit. Okay, to perform mathematical calculations we need ALU. Now in the human brain, specialized regions are there for the processing mathematical and logical operations. Understanding? In brain what we are having as a specialized regions for processing particular mathematical or logical operations or any kind of tasks, whereas CPU is having ALU, that is arithmetic logic unit. Understanding? So this is based on the architecture we are comparing here. Okay, so here it is the specialized regions, here it is arithmetic logical unit. Okay, to perform specific tasks like mathematical calculations or local operation, logical operations and all. Next, the prefrontal cortex, for example, is responsible for higher level cognitive functions such as decision making and problem solving. So in brain we are having something called prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex will be somewhere here. Okay, so this plays a very important role wherever we need very high level cognitive functions such as, for example, decision making or problem solving. So this particular prefrontal cortex will get activated. That means it has to function to make a particular decision making. In some of the diseases, prefrontal cortex stops functioning. Then during that time, the patient cannot move his hand. Even though his brain is thinking, even though he wants to move, but he cannot move hand because that comes under decision making. So if someone wants to walk, that is also a decision making. If brain gives the signals to walk, then only you can walk. But in the case of severe Alzheimer and Parkinson or any other brain related diseases, the person will not be able to walk because his prefrontal cortex is blocked. It is not working. So wherever you need high level cognitive functions, we need prefrontal cortex to work properly. Why? Because it requires high level of cognitive functions. Only prefrontal cortex can do that. For examples are decision making and problem solving. So what we need to do the decision making and problem solving, we need prefrontal cortex and prefrontal cortex. Okay. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ಕಿಟೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರೆಡ್ ಡಾಟ್ಸ್ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಅಥವಾ ಬ್ಲೂ ಇರೋದನ್ನ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಇದನ್ನ ವ್ಯಾನ್ ನ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆರ್ಕಿಟೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ವ್ಯಾನ್ ನ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಅನ್ನೋನು ಒಂದು ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಆರ್ಕಿಟೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಹೀಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಪೋಸಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ CPU ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಗೆ ಇಂಟರ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನೀವು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋ ಒಂದು ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ನೀವು ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅನ್ನ, ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಫೈಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಾಪಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದು ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಸೆಲ್, ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಮೆಮೊರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಪೇಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಪೇಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ತರ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ವೆರಾಸ್ ಇದು ಸಿನಾಪ್ಸಿಸ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸೆಲ್ ತರ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವಾಗ ಸಿನಾಪ್ಸಿಸ್ ಲಿಂಕೇಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅವಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಮಗೆ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರತ್ತೆ, ಸಿನಾಪ್ಸಿಸ್ ಲಿಂಕೇಜ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಏನಾದರೂ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗು ಅಥವಾ ವಾಕಿಂಗು ಅಥವಾ ಎನಿ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಟೇಕನ್ ಬೈ ಅವರ್ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಡನ್. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಆರ್ಕಿಟೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ CP ಅಲ್ಲಿ ALU ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅರ್ಥಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಲಾಜಿಕ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್. ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ರೀಜನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಎರಡನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ALU ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಮ್ಯಾಥಮೆಟಿಕಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಲಾಜಿಕಲ್ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ವೆರಾಸ್ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ರೀಜನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ರೀಜನ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಈ ಮ್ಯಾಥಮೆಟಿಕಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಲಾಜಿಕಲ್ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತಹದೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ALU ತರ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಪ್ರೀ ಫ್ರಾಂಟಲ್ ಕಾರ್ಟೆಕ್ಸ್. ಈ ಪ್ರೀ ಫ್ರಾಂಟಲ್ ಕಾರ್ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ALU ತರ. ಅದೇನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಹೈ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಥವಾ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್, ಏನಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೀ ಫ್ರಾಂಟಲ್ ಕಾರ್ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅದೆಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಂಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರೀ ಫ್ರಾಂಟಲ್ ಕಾರ್ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಸಾಲ್ವಿಂಗ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಸಹ ಅದೇ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಸೊ ಈಗ CPU ಅಲ್ಲಿ ALU ಇದೆ, ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ರೀಜನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದೇ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಪ್ರೀ ಫ್ರಾಂಟಲ್ ಕಾರ್ಟೆಕ್ಸ್. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಸೊ here this is how exactly it looks like. Prefrontal cortex, here it will be in the front part of the brain. Here you can see this part. Okay, so here we are having the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and orbitofrontal and ventromedial. So these all are different part of the prefrontal cortex. Okay, they are having the different multiple regions. The multiple regions are responsible for multiple tasking. Understanding? So that is what the schematic representation of the frontal lobes of brain, which is very important for decision making and problem solving. So similarly, computer CPU also has a memory units. It has got something called subconscious or memory, conscious memory, where it will store the information. Okay, so CPU has a memory system in it. The brain also has got the memory system. Human brain has several regions dedicated to the memory storage itself. Those regions are responsible for only memory storage, including hippocampus and amygdala. So these are hippocampus and amygdala are responsible for storing the information, whereas in CPU we are having memory units. Okay, so this is exactly how it looks like. So you can see here hypothalamus. This is nothing but controls the body's temperature, hunger, fatigue, sleep. This hypothalamus is the thing. It remembers when you eat. Okay, so for example, morning I didn't have breakfast. So hypothalamus tells me that you have not done with your breakfast. So it will your stomach will get will experience the hunger. So that information is stored in hypothalamus. Imagine if the person has got any issues, brain related disorder, and he loses the function of hypothalamus. That means this part, the hypothalamus, if it is not working, then he will stops remembering whether he is hungry or not. Even though he has been hungry for 2 days, he won't have food because his brain is not sending signals that telling him that he has to take food. Understanding? So that's how hypothalamus controls the body's temperature also, hunger also, fatigue, sleep. All these things are controlled by what? Hypothalamus. These all are things what? The temperature, hunger, sleep, fatigue. All these things all comes under memory information or storage. So that will be done by hypothalamus. Whereas the second one, what we mentioned as amygdala. So its amygdala is responsible for memory. Okay, that I will remember some particular thing, and then decision making. So for example, if I want to go somewhere, so that need to be processed here, remembered. Okay, so that for example, I have to take a decision on this particular, whether I should take engineering or medical. So that decision is made in the amygdala. Okay, and emotional responses. If somebody yells at you, or if somebody scolds you, then how you feel it, how you respond it. Okay, all those emotional responses. Okay, these this processing happens here. Okay, so in amygdala. Okay, and next we are having the basal ganglia, that is it controls the movement of the leaning, habit, cognition and emotions. That means whatever the control of movements are, we are having I'm doing movement and learning aspects. Okay, if your basal ganglia is not functioning proper, you cannot learn as fast as what the normal human being can learn. And then habit, you will be having a particular habit, so that is again controlled by the basal ganglia. and cognition and emotions. These all are controlled by the ganglia. Next we are having thalamus. So thalamus is specifically responsible for a regulation of sleep. Okay, so when you like whenever you are sleeping in between, you will wake up and sometimes you lose sleep, all those kind, because that is maybe because of some issues in thalamus, or if in thalamus if some issues are there, you can experience the sleep disorders or something like that. Next, consciousness. Some people will be having in their dream or in sleepwalk, they will do sleepwalk, right? Whenever they are sleeping, they will just get up and they will start walking. That is because of the issues which are seen in the thalamus. Okay, because of they will not be conscious, but they will still be walking. Okay, so these all things comes under this particular memory. Okay, where the limbic system, that means a cross section of the human brain, where a mammalian body, basal ganglia, pituitary gland, amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus. Okay, illustration. Okay, so that is done. So the credit goes to the Desmia and Shutterstock. Okay, I have taken this particular image from them. So these all things will come under this particular test. What is it? The particular they all bring together, they will form up a whole brain, so that we can remember the stuff, we can control our emotions, we can control our body temperature, we can control our whether we are hunger or not, we can control our sleep. All those things will happen. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ ಸಿ ಪಿ ಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಮರಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆದರೆ ಬ್ರೈನಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಇದು ಇವೆ, ಏನು ರೀಜನ್ಸ್ ಇವೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಪೋಥಾಲಮಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಅಮೆಗ್ಡಾಲಾ ಇದೆ, ಹಿಪೋಕ್ಯಾಂಪಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಥಾಲಮಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಬೇಸಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಲಿಯಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಬಾಡಿ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರು, ಹಂಗರು, ಅದು ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಹಿಪೋಥಾಲಮಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ಹಸಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ನಮ್ಮ ಬ್ರೈನ್ ಅದನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಊಟನೇ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ 2-3 ದಿನದಿಂದ ಯಾರು ಉಪವಾಸನೇ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಪೇಷಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಹಿಪೋಥಾಲಮಸ್ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ಥರ ನಮ್ಮದು ಬೇಸಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಲಿಯಾ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಹ್ಯಾಬಿಟ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಅಥವಾ ನಾವು ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಥಾಲಮಸ್ ಸರಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ಲೀಪ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಆವಾಗ ನಾವು ಕಾನ್ಷಿಯಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೇ ನಾವು ಎದ್ದು ನಿದ್ದೆಯಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ವಾಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಆ ಥರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಆಲ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಮೇಕ್ಸ್ ಅ ಹೋಲ್ ಬ್ರೈನ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಆಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇ very important role as a memory unit, okay, in brain. Next, while the comparison between the human brain and the computer CPU can provide useful insights, it is important to note that the human brain is vastly more complex and capable system with many functions that are still not fully understood. So here what they are explaining is our brain is very complex system, and we cannot say that these are the only functions that these particular regions are doing, because there might be billions of functions also. So far in whatever the technology we got, we have not reached at that we cannot say that 100% we understood our brain. No, it is not yet done, and it is very difficult to understand our brain, because it's very complex. Even though with the help of supercomputers and quantum computers, we may not able to understand we cannot simplify our brain's functions and the different regions, and we cannot assign the function for all the neurons, because there are billions of neurons are there, and there are almost 1,000 to lakhs of neurons will die every day, and then the new neurons will go on. They will take up their in charge, and then they will do the functions. So brain, we cannot simply say that this is the only function of the brain. Whereas CPU we can assign. So in CPU, so many chips are there, so many transistors are there, so many tasks. Understood? So that is fixed. Whereas in brain, since it is more complex and capable system, whatever you are thinking, the brain can be capable of so much, only so much, but it can go beyond that. Every time it breaks the boundaries. Okay, so that's how the brain works. That's why there is no competition with the human brain. But we can, certain aspects we can compare, where CPU of a computer will act as a brain of a computer, whereas that's how our brain functions. Okay, some of the properties what the CPU is doing that can be done by the brain. Okay, so that's it. CNS and PNS we will discuss in the next class.